Hey folks, how's it going? I'm Josh.
I'm Taylor.
And we're going to be checking out what later?
Anthony Jeselnik's parents found drugs in his room.
Alright folks, we're going to hop right into this. You guys messed for more Jeselnik for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And this was just uploaded today. So, I'm going to jump right into it.
Now listen, look guys, I know, I am aware that I must seem like a tough, cold son of a bitch up here. In fact, the only time I've ever cried in public in my entire life was at my mom's funeral. I might be a tough, cold son of a bitch, but that doesn't mean I'm not also one hell of an actor. My mom was a depressed woman. My mom was a very depressed woman. My mom was so depressed, she had the words, "In case of an accident, please do not resuscitate," tattooed across all of her children.
That's horrible.
He's so good at misleading you, like making you think he's gonna go in one direction. Mm-hmm. Every time I watch this dude, I never know who he's gonna go. Like I'm like,
yeah, he just says something crazy,
and it just pops out, and you know it's gonna be like it's gonna be something crazy, and then you just don't expect what it's gonna be. He's just good.
I'd say my mom's funeral was like 10, 11 years ago now. Last year, I had her body dug up. Settle a legal dispute with my siblings. Turns out I was wrong. That is illegal.
Oh no.
Now at this point, I should admit my parents were actually pretty reasonable people when they were raising me. Unless they found drugs in my bedroom. Then they were high for days.
It seems like him and so far since I've been watching this, just based on what I've seen so far, which is maybe 6 or 7 comedians in the clips we've seen from him. It seems him and Dave Chappelle are the only ones seem to be bringing like better material, like good material to Netflix. Everybody else just seems like they just kind of just throw crap in it. Let me know if you guys know somebody who did better stuff on Netflix besides those two. But so far, it's the only ones that kind of really impressed me with their stand-up. Other people have kind of been kind of funny, but not as good.
I think the strangest thing in my family was just weird about sex, you know? I was the oldest of 5 kids in a tiny little house. When my parents wanted alone time, they would gather us together, say, "Kids, go play hide and seek," and they'd lock their bedroom door for an hour. Of course, I always knew what was going on in there. I mean, I would hide in their room.
Stupid.
My parents are weird about sex. You know? I think the most embarrassed I've ever been in my entire life was the time my mom and dad caught me watching hardcore bondage pornography over their shoulder.
You're fucking stupid.
And I'll never forget the first time I had sex. You know those stories you hear about kids who lose their virginity to the hot babysitter? I was the babysitter.
After this, I have a story about a babysitter. I gotta tell you guys.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I got a story about a babysitter.
Nasty.
Yeah, I could have opened with that if I wanted to.
That was the end of it. All right. So you guys ready for this story? All right. I had a babysitter who was. She was weird. She was crazy. My mom didn't know this because she used to say stuff like, "If your mom if you tell your mom I'm gonna put like bleach in her ice cubes." My mom used to always eat ice cubes, so like, oh, she's gonna kill my mom. But it's funny now. But back then it wasn't funny. Whenever we did something bad, like something that I guess she would consider bad, like us being too loud with our toys, something like that, she'll leave and then she'll come back naked, and then she'll whoop us naked. She didn't touch it or nothing. We just get to whoop it, but she'll do it naked. And I was like telling Jarvis was like maybe 4 or something like that. So he was like, "Dude, I really don't remember that." And John says he don't. I think John does because
he just don't want to talk about it.
I think John did stuff with the babysitter because John was always a pretty boy, and we used to, every time we had a babysitter, they would send me and Jarvis to bed and like John the oldest so he can stay up late. And it's kind of like that whole John Mulaney joke where he said like he found out he was like he was like 11 and his babysitter was like 13 or something like that, so like a couple years older.
Yeah.
That's what we found. I found out the people who use babysitters are maybe a few years older than us.
Not that. It
not
seems
that much
a lot
older. Yeah.
At the time, but not really.
But yeah, that was like the story. Like yeah, she would like get naked and like whoop us. She was so freaking weird, man. And I told my mom about that lady. She said, "Well, y'all didn't tell me that." We told her this years. I told her like years later, and John was like, "I kind of remember it." John was like, "That happened. I'm like, dude, she did it a bunch of times. Like y'all know you remember. I think John, because she was saying the same thing. She'll tell her like, John can stay up an hour later. Y'all got to go to bed. John's like, "I'm not telling because she boo boo boo." Like he probably got like his little Peter touched or something. Who freaking knows?
So if Jarvis was like 4, you were like what, like 5 or 6?
Well, Jarvis was like 4, turning 5, and I was like I was already 6. Jarvis was always just a few months behind me.
Okay.
Jarvis is always a year and a couple months behind me.
So then John was like what, around 7 or 8?
Yeah. Same thing with John. John's like a year and a couple months,
okay.
a couple months ahead of us. I think John's like 14 months ahead of us. I'm like maybe 13 months ahead of Jarvis. It's something like that. Well,
yeah.
Or 14 or 15 months
it's
ahead
like
of Jarvis.
about a year.
Yeah. But yeah, it was the yeah. It's freaking weird, man. Ugh. Yeah. And I didn't, and then the whole, like, what do you call? I'll say that story for another time. I don't want to make this video too long.
I just always had like a weird religious babysitter.
Yeah.
That was real mean and would yell at us about everything.
I never had no. Yeah.
Super religious and scary and weird. So that's about it. But nothing like pervy. Just mean.
Yeah, I learned about this stuff when I was like young.
Yeah.
And I never acted on it until I was like way older. But like I didn't ever. Same thing when I was really really little. Like we had these girls who lived on the streets. I still remember their name were the Longs, and this is when we lived in Alabama, and these girls are older than us, and we would play outside and all that kind of jazz, and we would like sneak into my dad's freezer and get cookies, and we'll get them some cookies and all that kind of jazz. And just one day, she's like, "I want to show y'all something," and I'm like, "Okay," and she says, "Let's go behind the garage. I'm gonna show you." We go back there, and she pulls her shirt up. I'm like, "Okay, I don't understand." And then I was like, "Yeah, I got to pull my shirt up too. Like, what we doing?" Like, I didn't get angles going on. Then John was like, "Shut up." I'm like, "Okay." And then she was like, it was two sisters. One of them was really young, and the other two were like a little older than us. And then she was like, "Take off your pants." I'm like, "No." She said, "Take off your pants." And then John pulled his pants down. I'm like, "No, I'm not taking off my pants." She said, "Take off your pants. You're gonna like this." And I'm like, and John was like, "John, take off your pants." And I like pull my pants down, and then she started like flicking my junk and like pulling on it, and then the other girl was like licking John's. We were young, like really young.
That's bad.
And I was like, "Ugh, stop!" John was like, "Shut up!" He was getting so mad, and it's crazy how a year difference would make you be like, "Yeah, this is what's up," and me going, "No, gross!" Oh man. I just finally pushed her off me, and I ran to the house. Mom was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "Nothing."
Nothing.
Start playing with my Ninja Turtles. Oh my goodness. Joan was like, "You ruined everything." I'm like, "Oh my god." Yeah. I can laugh at it now, but it's kind of weird back then.
Right. Because like weird. They would have had to see someone do something.
They had to see something. Now, as an adult,
them,
and when you grow up, you understand like, it's kind of sad. Something happened to those girls for them even try that weird stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're only maybe a couple years older than us, but like still, I'm like, ugh. So, I don't know. Now you can think back on and laugh at weird stuff happened to in your childhood, but when it was happening, I'm like, oh no.
Right.
Like, this doesn't seem
isn't
right. This isn't right at all. And it's like something you just know it. Like, and you're like, this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. My brother loved it, though, so... We had a freaking meeting with people coming out like, oh, man, this happened to me when I was a kid. And he was like, yeah, that's the best, isn't it? Everybody else crying. He like, uh-huh, yeah. He was always on, the, I guess, the positive end of that stick. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. All right, folks. That's all for this video.
Every video is just you giving like a sad story about.
It's not sad.
Stuff.
It's funny.
I know, but the stuff
it's funny. It's
like,
funny to me. It's funny when I think back on it. Yeah. So it didn't really do anything to me. I guess I don't really think it impacted the way I look at things in the world and all that kind of jazz. I don't really think it made that kind of impact. I think it's different when it happens to like a girl than when it happens to a guy. I think there's still an impact, but I think it's a little, especially when it wasn't they weren't adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like girls who didn't really know what the hell they were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they just was kind of like, they were curious about it, and they're acting out something they probably saw.
Right.
Kind of thing. And I was just more weirded out about it.
Mm-hmm. Because you were...
But as a kid, I seen a lot worse than... Like, I had a lot worse experience than that. Like, and by a lot worse, I mean, like, just weird stuff. Like, Jarvis used to, like, pigeons would get in our backyard in Alabama. Was a bunch of leaves in the grass. So they kind of go around and they'll peck around, because my dad used to throw old bread outside. And the pigeons couldn't fly off. Because the leaves, they can fly off fast, so their wings will, like, slap the ground. Yeah. And Jarvis saw that. So what he would do is he would run and grab a pigeon and then dip it in our kiddie pool so the wings are wet, so they can't fly, and then take it out, and then, so he try to keep them as pets. Not think, oh, their wings going to dry and they're going to fly off.
But they won't, they can't go
But yeah,
away.
he'll, like, dip them in there a whole lot and kind of frizzle their feathers a lot so they can't fly off easy. And he would just do that so he can have pet birds walking in the backyard. Jarvis is weird. If you watch this video, he'll know he's a weird kid. My dad used to catch crawfish so he can boil them, and Jarvis just take them out of the. One day he was humming something, don't know what it was, but he's like smash, and he just taking like he'll just grab a crawfish, put it on a rock, and like I'm like, what are you doing? It was just a pile of like goop running off the brick from how many crawfish he smashed. My dad had a whole bunch now. I looked and he had smashed like at least 50% of them. I was like, Jarvis, why are you doing that? Because I want to see what it looked like on the inside. I'm like, okay.
That's kind of scary.
You a little weirdo?
Yeah.
He didn't become like a murderer or nothing.
No.
But he just was just weird. All right, this video going on too long, guys. I'm going to shut up. All right. Later.